Scott and I'm at it. Thanks for sharing that, Mike. See, we didn't know it then, but we were later going to be very thankful for the things that we didn't have to deal with anymore at that time. I guess when I'm right in the middle of it, I just can't see the good in it. More than once have I been thankful that has been removed. I'm just going to take a little bit of time to get started. I'm a member of the Live Clean or Die group in Morgantown, West Virginia. In Morgantown? Is that what you have? Oh, that's my home group. Oh, what a question. No, that's great, really, because one of the most essential things that I got in Narcotics Anonymous, probably one of the first things, was like my home group, and it's been, my group's been my home group for as long as I've been clean, as long as I've been in Narcotics Anonymous. It's the first thing that I ever belonged to. We spent 2 or 3 months in group conscious just coming up with the name. I swear I think we went over about 200 names before we came up with Live Clean or Die. And I think that was about the only item of business that we had. And of course we kept tabling it after at the end of each conscious. We finally hit it, I think, on the 3rd month. And I think it's some of the faces that were there, they're not around anymore. I don't know. I think it kind of shows me that the principles of Narcotics Anonymous, such as home group, sponsorship, principles behind our substance conditions, are larger and stronger and eternal and like more everlasting than any one of us as members. And as long as I always remember that, I think I'll always have a place in this program and I'll always be able to grow. I can't get along without my home group. I don't know, I can talk about my home group and stuff. It was like, the area that I'm from, North Central West Virginia, it's really no large metropolitan areas there. To me, it kind of epitomizes or symbolizes like the way NA sprung up in general. That is, with its first meeting, where practically nobody came, but there was always those 1 or 2 members who showed up, thinking that it was a compliment to some other program. That's just kind of the natural evolution that I saw of NA in our area. It grew out of another fellowship that we all attended before we heard the Narcotics Anonymous message. And over the years, it's just grown from there. And there's been very hard stages in that growth that we as a group had to learn. And believe me, there was more than once that I, as a member of my group, wanted to say fuck it and leave. And some people who did say fuck it and left. That's all right too. Because to me, it's like the traditions told me I needed to keep coming around. It's our common welfare should come first. My personal recovery depends upon NA's unity. The most basic place that I have to practice unity is in my home group. And when something's not going my way in my home group, where else do I have to go? We've certainly had some real dynamic and learning group consciousness. You know what I mean? There's just been those group consciousness where like our members have been really at odds, and people have come out of those business meetings thinking like, God, what is this all about? To me, and really, I guess it's after some time. To me, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It really is. To see addicts like throw out their feelings and their views on a subject, and to come to a common understanding. And a lot of people can only see the conflict. And I guess, there's always the conflict to find in a home group. What I've seen probably occurs a lot less often, but is much more beautiful to watch is the reunification afterwards. Is where the members of my home group have grown through that conflict. And it's through that pain and through that, like, trying to find some common ground that we have bonded and unified even more than before we had that. And I'll never forget that. And it'll happen again, and I'm sure it'll keep happening. But to me, it's the principles in action, and it's precisely the principles like our first and second tradition that tell me that the conflict is not important, but working through that. Part of living life on life's terms, if I can get through my group conscience, I tell you, it's pretty easy to deal with most anything out in life. It really is. Our second tradition states that a loving God as He may express Himself in our group conscience, being our ultimate authority. How does God, as I understand Him, as He expresses Himself in our group conscience, expresses Himself according to the traditions as they're practiced by everybody in the group conscience. If I'm not in my group's business meeting on a monthly basis, God can certainly not express Himself through me. I've really seen that one of the most important aspects of our second tradition is that I show up, that I do belong, that I don't just say, well, yes, I am a member of a home group, but fuck it, it's not that important for me to go to one. I can talk about this stuff like being a member, but it really has a lot of meaning to me personally, because I think of the faces, and I couldn't see it then, but I think of how that was working on me inside. I used from the time I was 13 to about until I was 25. I got to Narcotics Anonymous through a person in the medical profession who didn't know about Narcotics Anonymous, sent me elsewhere. And, why did I come here? I was just desperate. I had used for a long time, and it seems as if, whereas using was once something that worked for me, toward the end, just as our book says, I couldn't get enough dope in me to cover up those feelings. I remember one of the greatest feelings that I had when I was using, no matter what I stuck into my body, was that first instance of getting off right after, right as it was taking effect. Whether I was just shooting down a beer, eating some pills, or whatever. And it's like this wave of feeling like everything was going to be all right. It just come over me, and I can remember that so vividly. And whereas when I wasn't getting off, I only had a feeling of like impending doom. After a while, that feeling ceased to work as long or as powerfully as it did. All I can say is that I was just a person who was unable to function in life. And I'm not saying on any extreme level. I was just unable to hold a one-to-one conversation with people. I know the last days of my using were about like avoiding people and being by myself. I lived in an apartment at that time, and it was basically my whole world. I was going to school, went out to the school, went to my classes, came home, and got high. And basically lived the rest of the day in my apartment. And, I don't know what... It's just that over time, that kind of using and that thing, it lost its spontaneity, and it just became kind of a routine. And I just increasingly had fear. Isolated. This addict alone was like in bad company, because all I could think was like I was insane in some way, that like I just didn't mesh with things. And so I went to see this doctor for depression. He immediately cued in on my using and got me into recovery for the meetings. I did, and it was a process through which recovery started unfolding for me. To me, it's real important because it taught me, like on a real gut level, what the principles of Narcotics Anonymous were about. There were no NA meetings in Morgantown at that time. So I was directed to a program, and I practiced abstinence from alcohol for 7 months, and I did. And in that 7 months, I used on a daily basis, whether it was getting up in the morning, smoking a number, doing coke. I was working at a bar at that time. I was doing coke and pills, whatever I could pick up off the people who were patrons there. And I said, hey man, this not drinking is all right. And it was. It was insane, but I did, man. I went on like that. And I thought that, like, I had this whole idea. It's like, if I just didn't drink alcohol, it was going to be all right. And after several months, man, those old feelings started coming back. And I remember the last night that I used, I was down in Charleston with some old friends, and I had a head full of coke, smoking Sinsemilla. And I found myself at my parents' kitchen table at 3 o'clock in the morning, like just begging God to like come down. And this overwhelming, to me, it was like this moment of clarity, of truth, that I could see my life for what it was. And though I might not have been able to put it into words, I knew inherently or intuitively that if my life was to change, it was going to have to come from not using anything. And coupled with that kind of understanding was this feeling of like, I cannot do it. It's impossible. I thought that this was the answer. This whole idea of recovery, of abstinence from like one drug, I had like understand it so well, and it did not work for me. And to think that I had to do something additional just seemed impossible. And I went to a meeting and shared that, and I was approached the next night, and I was approached by the person in that meeting and said, "Have you ever been to an LA meeting?" I said, "No." And I was taking my first LA meeting. And I think some of the people who like saw me at some of those first NA meetings remember how I was, It's like on the one hand, I heard these principles that spoke to my life directly, When we use drugs in any form or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again. And that was my experience. I couldn't deny that. And I said, yeah, that's me. And on the other hand, it's like I used to sit in meetings and think like, gee, this is just not the kind of recovery I'm used to. And I used to tear NA down in my head. I used to tear the people down. I was just one of those people who was like going to come and share some principles with NA and then leave, And I was doing NA a favor, kind of. These people would reach out their hands, they'd say, keep coming back, and I remember I'd get incensed. They'd ask me to get involved, chairing a meeting, and I'd say yes begrudgingly, I'd get pissed off because they were making demands on my time, I was perfectly willing to attend some NA meetings, just don't ask me to do nothing. And I did. People reached out their hand, and I said, yeah, that's all right. And I did not take that. I was only going to give to the people that I knew in that home group at that time as much as I wanted. And I love those people because they just said, keep coming back. And they really did, and it wasn't a habit type of thing that they were saying. It was in a way that was full of love. And I just never can forget that feeling of how I was just such an arrogant, judgmental person coming to NA meetings, and people said, keep coming back. And on the outside, I would say that, and I would talk that, and I would have that attitude. And on the inside, as our basic text says, that the dynamic forces of change deep within were going to work. I think that every time I was hugged, and every time I was told to keep coming back, oh man, just the level of sharing. That was scary to me. Really, it was. I had to me, it seemed like a lot of things. People in recovery didn't have to share that deeply. Men don't share this way, and a lot of things. And I could say this stuff on the outside, but man, it was working on the inside. And it's that empathy that our basic text talks about. Where it talks about that language of recognition, belief, and faith, and it's not a mental thing, it's not even an emotional thing. It is such a deep, every time that people shared like that in an NA meeting, it would touch this place inside of me that I didn't even know existed, this place that I know now today it's of God. And it's of that deep emotional or spiritual level of, I know what it's like, and you're not alone. And whether my mind recognized it or not, my heart did. The belief in the somehow through some type of faith. And I'm still a member of that home group today. Home group's a home group. Live Clean or Die group, it's probably one of the oldest, it is the oldest in our area. It doesn't matter. The principle of a home group is bigger than the Live Clean or Die group or the home group or any other group in our area. Same thing with sponsorship. This anonymity that our 12th tradition talks about, it's not important who my sponsor is. It's that I participate in the principle of sponsorship, and that all is needed is action. And that's all I need to do, is take the action. And I've really gotten caught up with that in the past, of like, the quality of my sponsorship is going to be the name that my sponsor carries. And it always gave me a feeling of inadequacy, because with that feeling that I was carrying around, probably no sponsor that I got would ever be good enough, because I could always look someplace else and somebody else would have a better sponsor. And it wasn't until I started experiencing sponsorship that myth was kind of put to rest. And I love that today. I love my sponsor today. He's a beautiful man. And I could do without him. Because if at some time we had to part, I know that the principle of sponsorship could still be with me. And will always be there for me just to pick up and take action on. And ironically or paradoxically, it makes me love my sponsor all the time. God, I tell you, I gave my lead 6 times before I even came down here. I was just going to tape the shit and have him play it on a tape recorder up here and not even show up. I had different versions too. The brigade charging man with the principles, and then I had my sensitive lead, It's insane. I try to get rid of that stuff, and it's like, I don't know. I keep coming back to it. So, I don't know. I really don't like to try here. On the other hand, I've got some... I can't talk about everything. I'll tell you, I'm going to talk about something that's been real important to me, and that's working the steps. I was one of the, am one of the older members in my area. If that bothers your ego, go share about it. I'm 6.5 years clean. And that's the credits due to the program of Narcotics Anonymous. But it wasn't free. Man, I tell you, the experience that the steps have given me, it is like taking so many misconceptions from me. That there's no shortcut in working the steps. That it don't matter who your sponsor is. It doesn't matter who my sponsor is, and it doesn't matter who I'm close to or who I'm best friends with, who I know in the program, how many I know, that working the steps all comes down to me sitting down by myself and looking at myself through the steps, and in that way, and nobody cuts corners. And it's all done the same way, and that's what makes us equal. So, man, if you want to be as equal as somebody with 8, 10, 15 years clean, you got it at your disposal, to pick up the steps and start looking at yourself. And that's a beautiful thing. It really is. I went for several years, man, and it's like we kind of struggled in our area. None of us really knew about these things, and we were like breaking off from just a whole lot of things that were going on. We were trying to learn how to work these steps in our personal life. And in the same instance, we were like learning about NA principles. Learning about NA principles came through like traveling around to different functions. If I'd have stayed in Morgantown, West Virginia, and never gone to any other functions and seen the larger NA fellowship, I would have still been there thinking that, hey, the way we do it is the way it's done. But man, it's like we went through stages of growth, everything from like, just the radical view that people could go on to NA because that was a tough one. I heard that at our second convention. This guy from up in York, PA, came down and was talking that stuff, and I'm like, hey, no way, talking about language and endorsements and stuff like that. And remember, I was talking to my friend about it, and we came to the conclusion, well, there's the letter of the traditions, and then there's the spirit of the traditions, and we could follow the spirit, you know what I mean? But it was because that we got out to install the larger fellowship that we started learning about in that. And that was a great thing. And there was controversy in our meetings about it. There was internal controversy in me. Like a lot of turmoil going on about this, It was just like all kind of new. It was almost arrogant of addicts to assert their independence like this, for a fucking program like this to assert its independence and say we work. It ain't got nothing to do with our members. It's the foundation of principles upon which it's built. It works, and it don't matter who picks them up. They are infallible, and I got caught up in looking at NA like everybody else. It's like, no, you don't understand. You have to have people with so many years of clean time. You have to have so many fucking people in a meeting, and it was like, you go out to these outside functions and people who had been in NA for years in other areas, and they were saying no. And it was like, it just created a lot of turmoil. I said, no, that can't be done. But at least that's what I've always been doing. And it can. And then, the one member in our area just, made a commitment to all his recovery into NA, and that's, threw me even more. The upshot of it is, it's like these people that went before showed me or were. They weren't even examples, man. They were just going about it the best way they knew how. And we were getting a larger consciousness. And man, things just start happening. People start making decisions, choices, commitments. We're doing drug use. Y'all know that one, huh? Don't work the steps. Stick around long enough and you will. I'm just a sick motherfucker, man, I tell you. And I thought I was well. That was the bad part about it. See, today if I'm sick, at least I know it. It was bad. I mean, people were asking me, we were getting newcomers, and this this terrible, painful position that older members get in. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm supposed to know some things. Now these people are starting to ask me questions. What do I do? You know? So I did a little bit of both. I started acting like I was an authority on the shit, you know? And started getting uncomfortable with it, too. Finally, I just hit bottom, man. I remember this one guy was asking me, oh, it was terrible. This guy was sponsoring and he wouldn't quit it. I mean, I was trying to avoid the guy. He was saying, what about this? What about these steps? You know, what about these steps? What about step 3? You know, and I was like, listen, I don't have time. Call me. Call me on Tuesday or something. And finally, we were in this restaurant this one night, and he was asking me about the shit, and I just said, I don't know. I just got mad at him almost, and I just said, I don't know. I haven't worked the damn steps. I don't know. It was humbling. I almost cried, I swear. Well, you all know how it goes. You sit in meetings and you just try to, paraphrase what you've always heard other people said about the steps. You know, say a few things out of step check. Really, it just came down to that. The thing was, I didn't have a sponsor. I had no, the sponsors that I had more of the steps, really. And man, it's like, looking back, I can look at that whole situation and all those people who were with such compassion, because it's just not a nice spot to be. Nevertheless, it's what makes all addicts equal, is I, just as much as anybody else, needed to take some action. And that was a real bottom for me. It was such a point of humility that it was like an admission. And then I began to take action to get sane again. And I started praying about sponsors. And it came to me. It was a speaking token. God didn't even know me. And, I got a sponsor that lives 2 hours away from me in another state in Pennsylvania. And I'm thankful. I'm just so thankful. Because there's people out there who need sponsors, and I was just so fucking thankful that somebody would say yes to me and sponsor me like that. This man didn't even know. And it was hard to talk. I called him 4 times and would hang up before he answered. And he finally answered, and he didn't know me, and I said, I'm so-and-so, I'm down here, Morgantown, and I mean, 24 years ago, he said, will you sponsor me? I said, sure. And I was so thankful. God has given me what I needed. And my attitude was I have nowhere else to go. I was just in that period that Michael talked about. I was breaking up with this girl, and things were hard enough then, and then add not having no foundation with the steps on top of that, and it was a lot worse. And I used to say to him, we used to talk about it, I'd say, I work the steps. It was here I'm asking for help, and on the one hand, it's give me help, let's talk about steps, on the other hand, it's I work the damn steps through once. That's what he said, don't do yourself a favor, stop. He said, what the steps do at least once, do that. And I'd say, okay, I worked the damn steps through once. But I don't believe they'll change me. I don't believe they'll change me. And that was my attitude. It was grim. And man, he said something so powerful. He said, that's okay. Belief is not a requirement. If y'all ever had that attitude toward the steps, and you've got to do that, you know what I'm talking about. Belief is not a requirement. All it is required is action. And belief and understanding follow. Man, that was so true. And I would sit down with that same attitude, and I would start writing step 1. I'd start writing step 2 and 3. Boy, we got together and shared those. And then I started on this 4th step, you know. To me, the 3rd step, basically, because of my experience of not getting past step 5, the 3rd step to me meant turn our will and our lives over to the care of the power greater than ourselves, or God as we understand Him, was like a commitment to work the rest of the steps. To me, that commitment was the best way that I could embody this turning it over, especially looking back on it, just turning it over that the 3rd step was talking about. I had written that first inventory, which was basically looking at all the past stuff that I did over my life, and it was negative. And I'll start writing the 2nd inventory and looking at the positive side too. But I found something real odd, and it was amazing that first inventory that I had done 2.5 years earlier worked too. Because the stuff that I was writing on in the 2nd inventory, I wasn't repeating. And I had shared that stuff. Now there was still amends and stuff that I had to bring on up in that first one. But to me, it was amazing that this principle was working, you know. There's a lot of stuff I didn't understand in the 4th step. And I can see why sharing that with my sponsor in the 5th step was important. It's because stuff that I didn't understand, you know, I came to understand through talking about it. You know, this principle of the 5th step of like letting another person know me, it is, I need it more today than I ever did, and it's just unbearable for me to keep it to myself anymore. I either have to share it in a meeting, share it with a sponsor, share it with another addict. And I see people who don't do that, man, and it's like, God, what you mean is pain in this country? I really do. It's not fun. But on the other hand, we have to take responsibility for our recovery. You know, there's nothing easy about, like, doing these things. Asking somebody to be my sponsor, writing this stuff down, looking at myself, sharing honestly with another human being. But what choice do I have? I don't have a choice. You know? And thousands upon thousands of other addicts do it on a daily basis in this fellowship. I'm no different. It can work for me too. I came to the 6th step, the place that I had stopped 2 years earlier, you know, and I had this mind that just analyzes everything. And it's like this affliction I got to learn to live with. And it was hard. It was just understanding step 6 was just so hard for me because all the other steps talked about taking action, and here the 6th step talked about, I don't know what the hell this was said. Willing Somebody help me out. Okay, yeah. We became entirely ready to have God remove all of our defects of character. And it's like, I don't know how that happens, And I prayed about like becoming willing, and I tried to share with people that I was unwilling, and I did. And I asked people like how it worked for them, how they worked the 6 steps. Some people said, well, by a process of working the first 5, I automatically, it just got me there. And to me, it wasn't really like that. It was like a place where I just had to keep sharing about it and praying about it until I reached the point where I surrendered. And I remember praying, and I'd say, God, now, I don't know when I'm going to be willing, but God damn it, I'll pray for willingness. I'll share about it. I'll be honest the whole way down. And I expect you to let me know when I'm willing. To me, now, it was real scary for me because I said, surely He didn't bring me this way just to mind fuck me, So I put it in the form of a demand, and it's like a contract thing, I'll fulfill my end, you fulfill your end. And it came. I understood. I really did. To the best of my ability at that time. I don't know. On the one hand, it's like I do it to the best of my ability, and that's what works for me. And the way I used to work the steps is to perfection, never getting past step 3. That fucking stuff will kill me. It's like, these steps are so dynamic, I can pick them up. They express themselves in my life in so many ways. And I can listen to a speaker or I'll experience something today and I'll think, well, gee, this is the way they work. The step 6, step 7 works this way, and that's it. And then something will happen that expands that view. And the only thing I can say now is that I just can't get some kind of idea of how the steps are going to work. It's almost like I got to go around being open to how they'll be revealed to me more. The humility part of step 7 is the most important to me because humility is talks about acceptance of our assets and our liabilities, and it also didn't say that God would remove our defects of character, but all it said it was for me to ask, humbly ask those things to be removed. And I did that, and I left the rest of it block. And I didn't go around looking to see if they were going to be. I worked to the best of my ability, and the humility part said after I had asked, after I continued to practice asking, practice humility, that is acceptance of my assets and especially my liabilities, that may not be removed yet today. I think the removal is going to happen in God's time and not mine. I made a list in step 8. I wrote down the harm for each person that I put, and I wrote down where that came from inside me, and most of that stuff was a lot of things I could find was just a lack of compassion, a lack of understanding of other people's, where other people are. Most of it was from fear. Simple as that. Fear, a lack of self-esteem, feeling like that I wasn't, worthy. Man, some of the amends. I went to this don't know. I'm just going to share about a few of the amends I made. One of them was this guy destroyed his property way back when I was in junior high. I don't even know if I was using that. And it was like, it seemed so silly calling this guy, making amends for this, And I didn't know what I was supposed to do. My sponsor simply said, you ain't got to feel all comfortable with this and stuff. He said, he just said, I just pray about it. And he said, and if you got to look down, and stumble over your words and whatever, it doesn't matter. The important thing is just to do it. And so I try, I remember that, and I would pray, and I would do that stuff, and I would anticipate. And I guess I was just willing. I didn't know how these amends would come out necessarily. But I called this guy. I destroyed the swimming pool cover, and I was thinking either he won't remember me and he'll laugh at me, or he'll say, yeah, Scott Holt, yeah, the swimming pool cover, yeah, that was $3,500. Then I was going to say, oh yeah, but I was trying to anticipate what I was going to say for that, Yeah, but I'm just trying to make amends. I mean, I wasn't talking about actually paying you back or nothing. Y'all ever thought about that one? Oh, man, I didn't know what the hell. Negotiate? What? I'll make this much a month. I didn't know. I really did. And I get these ideas, and it worked out, This guy's attitude was just keep it up and try to help somebody else. This other girl, I stole some property off of her. This is while I was in recovery. I just lived with her. And we didn't get along anyway, and we still did. Still did at the time I made my amends. I'd go up to her house, man, and I'd knock on the door. I went up there 4 or 5 times, and I'd be on there, so I'd pray before the thing. She was never home. I said, all right, I'm willing. I went. So I got this idea. I write a letter. I call my sponsor and said, man, she's just not home, and I'm so damn willing, It's so I thought that I'd write this letter and just leave it on the thing. Well, I wrote the letter, and it was this thing that I had stolen from her. She's going to leave it at a screen door. This is the one fucking night that she's home. So I knock on the door, man, and like a roommate answers. The TV is right off the entranceway. The living room where she was watching TV is right off the entranceway. She invites me in. I'm standing in the entranceway. She sits down not 5 feet from me to continue watching TV. While this girl I'm going to make the amends to comes down the steps. This girl comes down the steps and stands in front of me and says, I didn't know what to do. It was freezing cold. I couldn't invite her outside. I thought about, my mind was racing. It's like, I'll ask her to get on the face. I didn't want to do it in front of this girl. So I ended up, man. That's just what I had to do. And it worked out. I left there with tears in my eyes. It's like I don't have to live that way. And, we talk about freedom in the 4th and 5th step of sharing that stuff. Man, when I was making amends for this stuff, there is no substitute. Becoming willing, having this removed, it's like taking that 6th and 7th step into action in 8 and 9 and making amends for this stuff. Oh, man. The feelings that I was getting, it was like... A lot of my amends today are just living amends, not repeating old actions. Step 10 is I do a regular inventory in a lot of ways. I write about it. I learn about myself in meetings. sponsoring others, and being sponsored allows me on an ongoing basis to look at myself, you know. Sometimes people I sponsor, they don't know how much I learn, like, because when I'm talking all this great shit, you know, it's like I really got to look at this and say, thanks, God, is that what you do? And it really makes me look at myself. And a lot of times it's not what I do. A lot of new feelings started coming up. Step 11, the meditation thing, was a great pool of knowledge in this fellowship about that. So I hope that anybody who's like approaching that doesn't get antsy about it. You'll get more revealed to you that I think than you ever know. I know I did. And so people do this all the time. It's like I never hear many people talking about it. I guess because really the 11th step ain't talked about that much in these, but a lot of people meditate, you know. A lot of people work on that conscious contact. I can think of like formal meditation. The way I live, anything that I do in my life is like a living meditation to me. I do things that enhance that calm place of God inside of me, that feed and nurture that serenity inside of me. And man, it's growing and blossoming, you know. And it's a lot of things. It really is. Touching people, you know. It's like I've never been real used to touching people. I tried that today. I try to make that kind of a daily practice of step 11 because it nurtures that thing inside of me. Just a lot of things that I always just thought that were associated with one sex or another, I find are really not. And I try to become more aware of those things. Step 12, what I'm looking, it's what I'm on now. What you said is the hardest part in it for me today is in all of our affairs. I was sharing in a meeting the other night. I have such a problem when something happens that I think is going to cost me money. I was pulling out the parking lot the other night. I hit this car, man. I just backed right into this car, and I fucking panicked. And I just shot out of the lot, man. I put the thing in first and just hauled out. I was pulling out, and I was looking behind me to see if everybody's coming out the door. I was like darting down alleys, turning off my headlights. It was like it's part of my brain. At the same time, we're saying, "Damn, Scott, look at this shit you're doing. What is this? You know, like this is insane." I say, "Yeah, but fuck it, man. I think that car behind me is following me, man. I think they're trying to get my plate." I had to share about it, man. It was like all of our affairs. That like just kept coming to me, you know. And it's like. So I don't know. God just may put that red Volvo back in my path, and I'm going to have to go up to this lady and this gentleman and just tell him. Man, that's a hard one. All I want to do is just to kind of. I was in Hills today. I get feelings like I haven't never experienced before. I was in Hills today. I was rushing to get. Department store. I was rushing to get here. I walked out of the kids section, or the video section, and they had a TV monitor, and Bambi was playing. And it was the damn scene where they're getting a little drink of water, and Bambi and her mom puts her head up, and they have to start running through the woods because the hunter's shooting at them. Bambi's hauling ass, and you hear this shot, and the mother's not following anymore. The fucking Bambi goes in the woods and he's falling out. So I'm sitting there in the damn store, and there's tears coming out. It's strange. It really is. I don't know. There's a lot of things I just wanted to talk about. One thing I've learned in sponsorship is that I've learned that I don't have the only responsibility I have is to share my experience, strength, and hope. And that the spiritual principles within the work are truly believe that. There's no way that I see over and over again that a man can stay in his program and continue doing our old ways and not learn about it and not use. Something's got to give. And it's like I don't have to tell people I sponsor what they should or shouldn't do. What was done with me was the most beautiful thing in the world. It's like, instead of making decisions for me, I was shown how to make my own decisions based on spiritual principles. Learning a new way to live. And man, that's something, to have the spiritual principles within me, or to be guided in the direction of, look for the spiritual principle that's going to say what's right. So that if I don't need to be in a relationship, or if I don't need to be darting out of parking lots or hit cars or whatever, I'll find that out, man, because it'll eat at me. And it's inevitable. It's like spiritual truth. I've heard other people talk about it as the principle of reciprocity, but there's no getting away from it. I may harm you, I may steal from you, slander you, ridicule you in front of others. Your feelings may be hurt. You'll get over it. I'll be the one that has to carry that around. I'll be the one that has to worry about if somebody's going to treat me that same way. And I can't live like that. So that's all I have to do. Short of harming anybody else, which I've never seen anybody in this program do. All I have to do is to try to show them the principle and support them no matter what decision they make, no matter whether it would be the one that I would make or not. And if it's wrong for them, I'll learn that. And I hope that, and I'd rather them learn that with my love rather than with my criticism. Blessing, something's very, very important to me. And it goes farther than our tradition that talks about us being non-professional. And that is so important. Because if you're saying what I should do or what my life is like, even if it's based on your own experience, I don't think that you can guarantee yourself being correct.